The video is what stays with you. It's 4 minutes of grainy, time-stamped footage from a security camera inside an elevator. The location is the Cecil Hotel in Los Angeles. The date is February 1st, 2013. The person in the video is Elisa Lam, a 21-year-old student from Canada. She is alone, and she is acting strangely, very strangely. 19 days after this video was recorded, her body was found. She was naked, floating in one of the hotel's rooftop water tanks. The discovery was only made after guests started complaining about low water pressure and a funny taste. The Los Angeles County Coroner's Office ruled her death an accidental drowning. They listed her bipolar disorder as a significant contributing factor. Case closed. But for millions of people who have watched that video, the case is anything but closed. The official story just doesn't feel right. It doesn't explain what we see with our own eyes. Her movements, her fear, the malfunctioning elevator, it all points to something else, something more. Was Elisa Lam's death a tragic accident, a terrible consequence of a mental health crisis? Or was she a victim of something far more sinister, a dark secret hidden within the walls of a notoriously cursed hotel? The answer depends on how you look at the footage, and to do that, you have to understand the place where it happened. The Cecil Hotel is not just any hotel. It sits on the edge of Skid Row, a place of deep poverty and desperation. Since it opened in the 1920s, it has been a magnet for darkness. It's been the site of countless suicides, murders, and unexplained deaths. The serial killer Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, lived there for a time. So did another killer, Jack Unterweger. The place has a reputation. It feels haunted because, in a way, it is. It's haunted by the real-life misery that has unfolded there for decades. This is where Elisa Lam decided to stay. She was on a solo trip across the west coast of the United States. She was documenting her journey on her blog. Her posts show a young woman who was thoughtful, curious, and struggling. She wrote openly about her battle with depression and bipolar disorder. She wrote about feeling lost and wanting to find her way. She was taking medication for her condition. She was trying. Her trip was meant to be an adventure, a step towards independence. She arrived at the Cecil on January 26, 2013. At first, she was placed in a shared hostel-style room. But her roommates complained about her odd behavior, and she was moved to a private room on her own. She was last seen in the hotel lobby on January 31st. After that, she vanished. Her family in Canada, used to daily calls, grew worried. They flew to Los Angeles, and a police investigation began. Flyers went up. The police searched the hotel, including the rooftop, but found nothing. The days turned into weeks. The mystery deepened. Then, the LAPD made a decision that would turn the case from a local missing person report into a global internet obsession. They released the elevator footage, and that's where the real story begins for most people. Let's watch together. The video starts. The elevator doors are open. Elisa Lam, in a red hoodie, walks in. She leans over and presses a bunch of buttons on the control panel. Not just one floor. It looks like she presses a whole column of them. Then she steps back into the corner of the elevator, as if waiting. But the doors don't close. This is the first strange thing. Elevators are simple machines. You press a button, the doors close, and you go. These doors stay open. After a few seconds, Elisa peeks her head out of the elevator. She looks left, then right, quickly, like she's checking if someone is following her. She pulls her head back in. She moves to the wall, pressing herself against it, almost as if she's trying to hide from someone standing just out of view. The doors are still open. She creeps out again, this time stepping fully outside the elevator. She stands there for a moment, she looks to her left, then shuffles a bit to her right. Then, she jumps back to the left and into the elevator, then back out. Her movements are jumpy, almost like a dance, but not a happy one. It's a dance of fear. She goes back inside the elevator and presses herself into the corner again, near the control panel. Still, the doors refuse to close. It's been over a minute. This is when her behavior gets even stranger. She steps out into the hallway again, and she starts talking. Her hands move in bizarre, unnatural ways. She seems to be gesturing to someone or something that we can't see. Her fingers are splayed, her wrists bent. It's like she's trying to explain something, or maybe plead with someone. It lasts for several seconds. It's deeply unsettling to watch. She looks like someone who has lost touch with reality. Finally, she walks away to the left, out of the camera's frame. And only then, after she is gone, do the elevator doors finally slide shut. They open again, they shut again. The video ends. This footage is the fuel for every theory. For those who believe something more happened, this video is Exhibit A. It's not just odd behavior. It's evidence of a crime. Let's look at it from their perspective. They see a young woman in mortal danger. She gets in the elevator trying to escape. She presses all the buttons to send the elevator to any floor to get away from her pursuer. But her pursuer is right there, holding the door open button, trapping her. That's why the doors won't close. She peeks out, checking to see if they're still there. She hides in the corner, terrified. When she steps out into the hallway, she's not having a hallucination. She's confronting a real person. Her strange hand gestures are her trying to reason with her attacker. "What are you doing?" or "Leave me alone." Finally, her pursuer forces her away, down the hall, towards the roof access. The elevator doors close, because the person holding them open has now left with Elisa. This theory feels compelling, because it fits the visual evidence of fear. She clearly looks scared. The idea of an unseen predator makes sense of her actions, and it leads directly to the question of her death. How did she get into that water tank? The tanks are on the roof of the 15-story hotel. The roof was supposed to be locked and alarmed. Once on the roof, you'd have to climb a 10-foot ladder to get to the platform where the tanks sit. And then the most difficult part, the lid of the tank. It was a heavy circular metal lid. Oh, how could a small woman like Elisa Lam lift that heavy lid, climb in, and then close it from the inside? It seems impossible. The foul play theory says she couldn't. Someone else did it. Someone chased her to the roof, killed her, and put her in the tank to hide the body. They either knew the hotel's layout well, like an employee, or they were a guest with a dark motive. Then there are the stranger theories, the ones that lean into the hotel's haunted reputation. They see the video not as a crime, but as a paranormal event. Is she talking to a ghost? The Cecil Hotel has plenty of those, they say. Is she playing the Korean elevator game, a ritual that supposedly takes you to another dimension? Some have pointed out her actions loosely match the steps of this urban legend. The video, they argue, is evidence of a supernatural encounter that ended in her death. They point to the movie Dark Water, a horror film from 2005 with a shockingly similar plot. A mother and daughter move into a creepy building, experience strange dark water coming from the taps, and discover the body of a girl who died in the rooftop water tank. The parallels are eerie, and the internet rabbit hole goes deeper. People analyzing the video claim it has been tampered with. The timestamp at the bottom is partially obscured. They say the video appears to be slowed down in certain parts. Nearly a minute of footage seems to be missing from the middle. Who would edit the video, and why? To protect someone, to hide something. This fuels the idea of a massive cover-up, perhaps involving the hotel staff or even the police. There was even a strange coincidence, a new strain of tuberculosis that broke out on Skid Row near the hotel around the same time had a test kit named Lam Elisa. For conspiracy theorists, this was no coincidence. It was a sign of a deep, dark plot. These theories are tantalizing. They offer a narrative. They turn a confusing and sad event into a thrilling mystery, a modern ghost story. They provide villains, ghosts, and conspiracies. They make sense of the senseless. But there is another way to look at the footage. It's a way that doesn't involve murderers or ghosts. It's sadder and it's messier. It's the official story. And it starts not with a predator, but with Elisa's own mind. Let's re-examine the case, but this time through the lens of mental illness. Elisa Lam had bipolar I disorder. This is a serious mental illness characterized by extreme mood swings, from the lows of depression to the highs of mania. When someone with bipolar disorder experiences a severe manic episode, they can lose touch with reality. This is called psychosis. During a psychotic episode, a person can experience powerful hallucinations. They can see and hear things that aren't there. They can develop intense paranoia, believing they are being watched or chased. Their thoughts can become disorganized, leading to confusing speech and erratic behavior. Now, let's watch the elevator video again with this in mind. A young woman, possibly in the midst of a psychotic episode, enters an elevator. She's not trying to escape a real person. She's trying to escape a hallucination, a terrifying phantom her own mind has created. In her paranoid state, she feels she has to get away now, so she presses all the buttons, not in a logical sequence, but in a frantic, desperate attempt to make the elevator move, to go anywhere but here. The doors don't close. Why? Maybe it's not a person holding the or open button. The Cecil was an old, rundown hotel, maybe the elevator was just faulty, or maybe in her confused state, Elisa herself had accidentally pressed the door hold button along with all the others and didn't realize it. It's a simple, mundane explanation, but it's possible. She peeks out of the elevator. She's not looking for a real person, she's checking for the source of her paranoia. The threat she feels is breathing down her neck. She hides in the corner, not from a physical attacker, but from the terrifying figures in her mind. She steps out into the hallway and begins gesturing and talking. She's not pleading with a murderer. She's interacting with her hallucinations. This is a common symptom of psychosis. The strange hand movements are not a secret code. They are a physical manifestation of her disordered thoughts. To an outsider, it looks bizarre. To someone inside that experience, it feels completely real. She then wanders off screen. The elevator doors finally close. Maybe the door hold button timed out. Maybe she had unknowingly been blocking the sensor. This interpretation changes everything. The video is no longer a glimpse of a crime in progress. It is a heartbreaking document of a young woman's mind turning against her. Her fear is real, but its source is internal. This brings us back to the water tank. How did she get in? The foul play theory hinges on this being impossible for her to do alone. But was it? Police reports state that the main door to the roof was locked and alarmed, and the alarm never went off. However, there were other ways to get to the roof, like the fire escape. A determined and agile young woman could have made that climb. In a manic state, people can have extraordinary energy and a reduced sense of risk. Once on the roof, she would have faced the tanks. The hotel's engineer who found her said the lid was closed. This is the key detail that fuels the murder theories, but the story is more complicated. Other reports suggest that the lids were not that heavy and could be opened by one person. Some have even suggested that the lid was already open. It's possible the engineer closed it himself after finding her, or simply misremembered in the shock of the moment. So let's imagine this scenario. Elisa, in a state of severe psychosis, believes she is being chased. She flees to the roof via the fire escape, seeking a hiding place. The water tank seemed like a perfect spot. She climbs the ladder. She manages to open the lid. She gets inside the tank, perhaps to hide, or perhaps because in her delusional state, the water seems like a safe or purifying place. Once inside, the water would have been cold. She might have taken off her clothes to try to swim or stay warmer, a paradoxical reaction that happens in cases of hypothermia. The tank was huge and not filled to the top. The sides were slick. It would have been impossible to get a grip to climb out. She was trapped. She could have drowned from exhaustion, or died from hypothermia in the cold water. The lid could have fallen shut on its own, or she could have pulled it closed behind her without realizing the consequences. This scenario is plausible. It doesn't require a murderer or a ghost. It only requires a tragic sequence of events driven by a medical emergency. The autopsy report supports this. The coroner found no signs of physical trauma, no sexual assault, no evidence of a struggle. If she had been attacked and forced into that tank, there would likely have been bruises, scratches, DNA from her attacker. There was nothing. The toxicology report was also revealing. They found her prescribed medications in her system, but the levels suggested she may not have been taking them properly. She had been prescribed 4 different drugs, an antidepressant, a mood stabilizer, and 2 antipsychotic. Her blog post from a month before her death mentioned she was feeling better and was reducing her medication. For someone with bipolar disorder, suddenly stopping or changing medication can be extremely dangerous. It could trigger a relapse, leading to a severe manic or depressive episode. It seems Elisa was trying to manage her illness, but something went wrong. She might have stopped taking her full dose, believing she was well enough without it. This led to a full-blown psychotic episode in a strange city, alone, in a hotel with a terrifying atmosphere. When you piece it all together, the official explanation, while less dramatic, starts to look much more likely. The strange behavior in the video is consistent with psychosis. The access to the roof was possible. Getting into the tank, while difficult, was not impossible for a desperate person. And the autopsy report shows no evidence of foul play, but does point to her underlying medical condition as a key factor. So why do so many people refuse to accept it? Why does the idea of something more persist? Because the human brain hates a vacuum. It hates randomness and senselessness. The death of a vibrant young woman, alone in a strange place, is a deeply senseless tragedy. It's easier to invent a monster to blame. A murder in the hallway, a ghost in the walls, a government conspiracy. These things are scary, but they are understandable. They provide a clear cause and effect. They turn Elisa Lam into a character in a story, a victim in a mystery we can try to solve. The alternative is much more disturbing. The alternative is that the monster was not in the hallway, but inside her own head. It was an illness. An illness is not a villain you can catch. It's random, it's cruel, and it can happen to anyone. The idea that your own mind can betray you so completely is a far more terrifying thought than any ghost story. The footage is a Rorschach test. Some people see a victim of a crime. Others see a victim of a terrible illness. What we see says a lot about what we are prepared to believe about the world. Do we believe in hidden evils lurking in the shadows? Or do we believe in the quiet, desperate, and often invisible struggles that people face every day? The story of Elisa Lam is not really a mystery. The clues are all there. Her own words on her blog, the medical examiner's report, and the heartbreaking video of her final hours. It's the story of a young woman with a serious illness who is doing her best to live a full life. She was adventurous, smart, and brave. And in the end, her illness overwhelmed her in the worst possible place at the worst possible time. The tragedy isn't that we don't know what happened to her. The tragedy is that we do. We saw it. We just didn't want to believe it. It's easier to hunt for ghosts in the Cecil Hotel than it is to confront The very real and very human horror of what it looks like when a mind comes apart. The footage doesn't show us a murder, it shows us a profound and terrible loneliness. That's the real horror, and that's why we can't look away.